An 18-year-old girl agreed to a date with a boy she barely knew and drove him straight into a plan that was never hers alone. By morning, he'd be dead in the desert, and she'd still believe no one would ever connect her to it. If you want to see exactly how she was wrong, subscribe, because what happens next unravels one piece at a time. She's 18, standing outside a quiet house in New Mexico when officers walk up behind her. She's told to set her things down. She asks if she can call her mother. Within seconds, her hands are behind her back. For nearly 2 weeks, this teenager believed the desert had kept her secret. She was wrong. To understand why she's in handcuffs, we have to go back 3 weeks to a date that was never really a date, and to a 16-year-old boy who had no idea what he was driving toward that night. Jesus Quintanot, known as Guo, has been talking to a girl online for weeks. Her name is Mariana. Tonight they finally meet in person. He picks her up, and for a few minutes, it looks like any ordinary first date. Then the car stops, and 3 men climb in. This is no longer a date. The group heads toward Pajarito Mesa, an isolated stretch of desert known for gunfire nobody bothers to report. Guo has no way of knowing this is the last place he will ever go, and by morning, someone else will find him first. A couple driving through the mesa spots something in the dirt and calls 911. Deputies arrive, treating it at first like something they've seen before. A fight, a gun, people scattering. Near the body, they find a card bearing his name. His family files a missing persons report the next day, and the description matches. Investigators believe this might be a case with no clear suspect, one that could go cold fast. They have no idea how wrong that assumption is, or how close the real story is to surfacing on its own. 8 days later, Mariana approaches Guo's family herself. She says they argued that night, and she dropped him off unharmed at a trailer park. Police bring her in, and she repeats the story. For now, she's a witness, not a suspect. But when detectives search the area she described, they find Guo's phone in the dirt, with a bullet hole through it. That single detail doesn't match an argument and a clean drop-off. In an instant, the story she volunteered starts working against her instead of for her. By May 27th, detectives have enough to secure a warrant. First-degree murder, kidnapping, robbery, conspiracy, tampering. When officers arrest her, the scene is almost mundane. She asks about her truck, asks someone to call her mother. For a moment, it looks routine. But Mariana isn't planning to sit quietly and wait for a lawyer. She has already decided what story she's going to tell next, one designed to put someone else at the center of what happened in the desert. In the interview room, Mariana claims she knows exactly who killed Guo. She just insists she isn't responsible. She names 2 others, claiming they forced her to drive him out there. But her own phone tells a different story. Messages instructing her to keep flirting with Guo, to keep him interested until they reached the mesa. The date was never real. It was bait, and Mariana had a personal reason to play along, one that had nothing to do with the 2 men she was trying to blame. Detectives learn Mariana and one of the men she named used to date, having broken up only months before Guo was killed. They believe she agreed to lure him in hopes of winning that relationship back. Meanwhile, the second man refuses to speak at all, invoking his right to a lawyer within seconds. The other is arrested in a tactical takedown and, unlike his companion, agrees to talk. Though what he tells detectives doesn't match Mariana's version of that night in one important detail. Mariana described a mysterious older man who joined them in the car, introduced to her as someone's uncle. The account from the man detectives are now questioning doesn't line up with that detail at all. What does line up is the motive: a stolen truck, a prior confrontation at a repair shop, and gunfire that Guo's own family had quietly mentioned before, but that never became public. Shell casings recovered from a car back up the claim, and detectives are far from finished asking questions. The detective lays it out plainly. First-degree murder means life in prison, and with 3 people involved, whoever cooperates first is often in the strongest position. Each charge gets explained in turn: the planning behind the murder, the kidnapping and robbery tied to that night, the conspiracy between all 3, the tampering with evidence afterward. By the end, there's no version of events left where anyone in that room can talk their way out completely clean. All 3 are now in custody, each facing charges tied to the murder of 16-year-old Jesus Quintanot. What happens next depends on what each of them ultimately admits, and how much Mariana had already given away the moment she tried to name someone else first. The case remains active, with no trial date yet, and homicide cases like this one can take years to resolve. What began as messages between 2 teenagers ended in the desert, over a stolen truck and a plan that used one boy's trust against him.